The subway screeched to a stop beneath the trembling streets of New York, its metallic roar echoing through the underground like the cry of a beast. Rainwater dripped from the platform ceiling, forming tiny puddles that reflected the pale yellow light of the flickering lamps. Among the scattered passengers waiting to board, one man stood out. Not for how he looked, but for the heaviness in his eyes. Ethan Cole was 32, his shoulders broader than his worn-out denim jacket, his jeans faded from years of overuse. His left hand gripped a paper bag full of groceries. Discount bread, a carton of milk, and medicine for his son's asthma. In his right hand, he held a small drawing. A stick figure of a man and a little boy, holding hands beneath a crooked sun. "For you, Daddy." His 6-year-old son, Liam, had said that morning before school. Ethan had smiled, kissed his boy on the forehead, and promised that things would get better soon. But deep down, he wasn't sure. Life hadn't been kind since his wife's accident 3 years ago. He worked double shifts as a delivery driver and still struggled to make rent. Every night, he told himself that his son was the only reason he kept going. And every morning, that belief grew stronger. The train doors hissed open. Ethan stepped inside, blending into the crowd of tired workers and half-asleep strangers. The air smelled of damp coats, metal, and faint perfume. He found a spot near the corner, clutching the grocery bag to his chest as the train lurched forward. It was then that he noticed her. A woman, mid-30s, dressed in a beige coat that once might have been pristine but was now soaked and wrinkled from rain. Her hair, dark and wavy, clung to her temples. She leaned against a pole, one hand pressing against her abdomen, the other gripping the rail so tightly her knuckles were white. Her breathing was ragged, uneven. At first, Ethan thought she might be dizzy or sick. But then she gasped, doubling over in pain. "Oh God," she whispered, her voice trembling. The passengers glanced at her and then quickly looked away, retreating into the safety of indifference. But Ethan stepped forward. "Ma'am, you okay?" She shook her head, sweat beading on her forehead. I think my water just broke." Ooh, for a heartbeat. The world froze, then chaos erupted. People gasped, others backed away as if birth was contagious. Someone muttered, "Call 911, while another fumbled with their phone, hands trembling. Ethan looked around desperately. No one was doing anything, just staring. He knelt beside the woman. "Hey, it's all right. I've got you," he said, his voice steady though his heart was pounding. She clutched his sleeve, tears brimming in her eyes. Please don't leave me." "I won't," he said softly. The train rattled through the tunnel, the noise thunderous, drowning out everything else. A conductor's voice came through the speaker, crackling, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're temporarily stopped due to a signal issue. Please remain calm." "Of course," Ethan muttered under his breath. "Trapped, underground." The woman screamed again, gripping the seat beside her. "It's coming. I can feel it." Okay. Deep breaths," Ethan said, recalling the nights he spent in the hospital when his wife was giving birth to Liam. "What's your name?" "Clara," she managed between gasps. "I'm Ethan. We're going to get through this, Clara. Just keep breathing for me, all right?" He took off his jacket, folding it to place under her head. A few passengers finally stepped forward to help. One woman handed him a bottle of water, another offered a scarf. Ethan's hands shook as he tried to comfort Clara, checking her breathing, trying to remember what the nurses used to say. Minutes felt like hours. Clara screamed again and Ethan could see the sheer panic in her eyes. "I can't do this," she sobbed. "Yes, you can," he said firmly. "You're stronger than you think." And then, through the deafening hum of the subway, the sound came, a newborn's cry. Sharp, powerful, alive. The crowd gasped collectively. Ethan cradled the tiny baby in his trembling hands, wrapping it in the scarf. Clara collapsed back, tears streaming down her face as relief washed over her. She's perfect," Ethan whispered, smiling weakly. "A little fighter." The train finally jolted as it began to move again. The conductor's voice returned. "Emergency services are waiting at the next station." When they arrived, paramedics rushed in, lifting Clara onto a stretcher. She held Ethan's hand tightly. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You saved us." Ethan smiled faintly. Just doing what anyone would have done. But as she was carried away, something nagged at him. The way the paramedics called her name. Clara Monroe. The way one of them whispered urgently into his radio. He didn't think much of it then. He just wanted to get home to Liam. But he didn't know that this night, this moment, would change everything. Because Clara Monroe wasn't just any woman. She was the wife of one of New York's most powerful CEOs. And the man who had just saved her life was about to step into a storm he could never have imagined. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the blinds of Ethan's small apartment, catching the dust that floated in the air. The sound of sizzling eggs filled the silence, broken only by the laughter of a little boy sitting at the kitchen table, his legs swinging freely off the chair. "Daddy, are you going to be late again today?" Liam asked, his big blue eyes studying his father. Ethan smiled faintly, sliding a plate toward him. "Not if I can help it, buddy. But I might have to take an extra shift tonight." Liam frowned. "You always say that." Ethan's heart sank a little. He hated how often that was true. Every day felt like a race, against Bill's time and exhaustion. Still, he tousled Liam's hair and tried to smile through it. "One day, it'll be different. I promise." He didn't tell his son about what happened on the subway. He didn't know how to explain it. Not the chaos, not the fear, not the strange sense of purpose he'd felt in that moment. It was as if, for a brief instant, he'd mattered again. After dropping Liam off at school, Ethan rode his old bike through the streets, weaving between traffic to reach the courier company where he worked. He spent the next few hours hauling boxes, delivering parcels and fighting fatigue. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid, barely. Around noon, as he was loading packages into his van, his phone buzzed. An unknown number flashed on the screen. "Hello, Mr. Cole." The voice was calm, authoritative. "This is Detective Harris with the NYPD. We'd like to speak with you regarding the incident on the subway last night." Ethan's chest tightened. "Is something wrong?" "Not at all, sir. In fact, quite the opposite. The woman you helped, Mrs. Clara Monroe, has asked to meet you personally." Ethan blinked, unsure he'd heard correctly. The Clara Monroe. As in? Yes, the same. Her husband, Charles Monroe, has also expressed interest in thanking you personally. Would you be able to come to St. Mary's Hospital today? Ethan hesitated. He didn't even own a proper shirt. But something inside him said yes. Yeah, I can be there. By the time Ethan arrived at St. Mary's, he'd changed into his cleanest clothes. A plain white button-up, slightly wrinkled, and dark jeans. The hospital lobby gleamed with marble floors and the smell of antiseptic. He approached the front desk, nervously rubbing his palms together. "Ethan Cole for Mrs. Monroe," he told the receptionist. Moments later, a man in a dark suit appeared. He was tall, sharp-featured, with a composure that screamed control. "Mr. Cole, I'm Charles Monroe." Ethan froze. He'd seen this man's face on billboards and business magazines. Charles Monroe, founder and CEO of Monroe Holdings, one of the city's biggest real estate empires. His handshake was firm, his gaze assessing. "My wife told me what you did," Charles said evenly. "You saved her life and my daughter's." Ethan shifted awkwardly. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," Charles replied, his tone hardening just slightly. "They wouldn't have. You did, and for that, you have my gratitude." He gestured for Ethan to follow. They walked down a quiet corridor lined with soft lights until they reached a private room. Inside, Clara lay on a hospital bed, cradling a tiny bundle in her arms. Her face lit up when she saw him. "You came," she said, smiling weakly. Ethan nodded, his chest tightening. "How are you feeling?" "Tired. But grateful. I don't even know how to thank you." She looked down at the baby, then back at him. "We named her Hope. Because that's what you gave me last night." Ethan's throat tightened. "That's beautiful." Charles watched the exchange silently, his expression unreadable. Then, clearing his throat, he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an envelope. "Please, accept this. A small token of appreciation." Ethan looked at it but didn't reach for it. "Sir, I didn't do it for money." Charles's eyes narrowed slightly. "It's not charity. It's gratitude." The Clara placed a hand on her husband's arm. "Charles, maybe let him decide." The tension hung thick in the room for a moment before Ethan finally nodded. "Thank you. Really. But all I want is to know you're both okay." Clara smiled, her eyes glistening. "Because of you, we are." That night, after putting Liam to bed, Ethan sat by the window, staring at the city lights. He held the envelope Charles had insisted he take before leaving. Inside was a check. $10,000. His hands trembled as he read the number. It could change everything: rent, school fees, medicine for Liam. But something about it didn't sit right. It wasn't just money, it was a symbol. Of power. Of debt. He exhaled heavily, closing the envelope. "What am I supposed to do with this?" he whispered to himself. Before he could decide, there was a knock at his door. He frowned. No one visited this late. When he opened it, a tall man in a black coat stood there, holding a sleek envelope. "Mr. Cole." "Yeah. I was asked to deliver this personally." The man handed it to him, then turned and walked away without another word. Ethan closed the door slowly, unease settling in his gut. He tore the envelope open. Inside was a letter. Handwritten in neat, elegant script. "Cole, what you did saved more than a life. It altered the course of something far greater. I need to speak with you again. Alone. Tomorrow, at 9 p.m. Pier 17. Clara." Ethan stared at the letter, his pulse quickening. Something about the tone, urgent, secretive, felt wrong. What could she possibly need from him now? He didn't know it yet. But meeting her again would uncover truths he was never meant to hear, and drag him into a web of power, deceit, and danger that would test every part of him. The next night, the air around Pier 17 was heavy with mist, the kind that blurred city lights into soft halos of gold. The East River churned quietly beneath the old wooden docks, reflecting fragments of the skyline like broken glass. Ethan stood near the railing, his breath visible in the cold night air. He checked his watch, 8:57 p.m., his pulse thudded in his ears. He'd almost convinced himself not to come, but curiosity and unease had dragged him here. Clara Monroe wasn't just anyone. And the letter's tone, it felt desperate. As if she were reaching out from behind invisible walls. Footsteps approached behind him. He turned. Clara emerged from the fog wearing a long coat and a knitted hat pulled low over her forehead. Her face was pale, but her eyes, those deep hazel eyes, burned with something intense fear. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice soft but hurried. "Clara, what's going on?" Ethan asked, glancing around. "Why meet here?" She looked over her shoulder before speaking. "Because this is the only place I can talk without someone listening." Ethan frowned. "Listening? Who?" "My husband." The words hit like a crack of thunder. Clara took a shaky breath. "You think Charles is a good man, a businessman, a loving husband. That's what the world sees. But the truth is," she trailed off, biting her lip. "He's dangerous, Ethan. Ruthless. And I don't know how much longer I can keep pretending." Ethan blinked, stunned. "You mean, he's hurting you?" She looked away, her voice breaking. "Not just me. So many people. His company, it's not just real estate. He launders money through shell projects, uses fake charities, manipulates politicians. And now, he's involved in something darker. Something criminal." Ethan's stomach knotted. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're the only person I trust," she said quickly. "You were there for me when no one else was. You didn't want money, fame, or anything in return. You just helped." She reached into her coat and pulled out a small flash drive. This has proof. Documents, recordings, transactions. Everything. If something happens to me, promise me you'll take this to the police." Ethan took a step back, his pulse racing. "Clara, I don't think I should." "Please." She cut him off, her eyes pleading. "You don't understand. He suspects I know too much. If he finds out I talk to you," she swallowed hard, "you and your son could be in danger too." Those words stopped him cold. What does my son have to do with this?" She looked around again, trembling. "Charles has people everywhere. Cameras, informants, even at the hospital. He knows you were there that night. He's been asking questions about you, Ethan." A sharp sound echoed from the darkness. A car door slamming. Clara froze. "We have to go, Clara, wait." Ethan grabbed her arm gently, but she pulled free. "Just take it," she whispered, forcing the flash drive into his hand. "Please, keep it safe. I'll contact you soon." Before he could respond, headlights swept across the dock. A black SUV rolled up silently, its tinted windows reflecting the streetlights. Clara's face drained of color. "It's him," she whispered. "Charles?" Ethan asked, disbelief flooding his voice. She didn't answer. She just turned and ran. "Clara!" But before she reached the end of the pier, two men in dark coats stepped out of the SUV. One of them grabbed her arm roughly. "Let me go," she screamed. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He ran toward them, shouting, "Hey! What the hell are you doing?" The taller man turned, pulling a badge from his pocket. "Stay back, sir. Mrs. Monroe is having an episode. We're here on her husband's orders to escort her home." "That's a lie!" Clara cried, struggling against their grip. "Ethan, don't let them take." Before she could finish, one of the men covered her mouth with a gloved hand and shoved her into the SUV. "Stop!" Ethan yelled, lunging forward. The man nearest to him shoved him hard, sending him sprawling onto the wooden planks. Pain shot through his shoulder as the SUV doors slammed shut. Tires screeched. The vehicle disappeared into the night. Ethan lay there, breathless. The flash drive clutched tightly in his palm. The fog swallowed the sound of the engine, leaving only the soft hum of the river. Later that night, Ethan sat in his dark apartment, staring at the small device on the table. His hands shook as he tried to process what had happened. Had he just watched a kidnapping? Or had Clara truly lost her mind, as those men claimed? He didn't know what to believe anymore. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number appeared. "Tor, you shouldn't have gotten involved. For your son's sake, forget what you saw." Ethan's heart stopped. He looked toward Liam's bedroom, where his son was fast asleep under a blanket of superheroes. The realization hit him like a punch to the chest. This wasn't just about Clara anymore. Whoever Charles Monroe really was, he knew exactly who Ethan was, and he was watching. Ethan rose from the couch, jaw tightening. He stared at the flash drive one last time, the city lights flickering beyond the window. He had two choices: destroy it and keep his son safe, or find out what was really inside, and risk everything. And as dawn began to break over the city skyline, he made his choice. He would uncover the truth, no matter what it cost him. The city was still half asleep when Ethan powered up the old laptop that sat on his kitchen table. Its fan whirred noisily, filling the quiet apartment. He inserted the flash drive with trembling fingers, glancing once toward Liam's room. His son's soft breathing was the only thing keeping him steady. The screen blinked. A single folder appeared, labeled Horizon. Ethan clicked it open. Inside were dozens of files, PDFs, spreadsheets, audio clips, even a few videos. He opened one of the documents and felt his stomach drop. It was a list of real estate transactions under Monroe Holdings. Properties bought and sold under shell corporations, all tied to offshore accounts. Each document bore signatures, dates, and what looked like coded bank transfers. He scrolled faster, opening another file. It contained photographs, images of politicians shaking hands with Charles Monroe, under the table meetings. Briefcases exchanged. Another file held an audio recording. Ethan clicked play. "You think anyone will trace it back?" a man's voice said. "Not if the charities keep fronting the transfers. By the time they find out, it'll all look clean." He froze. The second voice was unmistakable, smooth, authoritative. "Charles Monroe." Ethan sat back, hands trembling. This wasn't just corruption, it was a network. Money laundering, fraud, bribery. Clara had been telling the truth. He opened another video file. The footage was grainy, taken from what looked like a security camera. A woman, Clara, was arguing with Charles inside an office. Ethan turned up the volume. "You're playing with people's lives. Charles, you think I care?" Charles snapped. "You don't understand what's at stake." Then, suddenly, he noticed something. Charles turned, looking directly at the camera as if aware he was being filmed. His expression hardened. The video cut to static. Ethan swallowed hard. Whoever recorded this, Clara, most likely, had risked everything. Then his laptop chimed. A small red pop-up appeared. Khan died. What? He froze. The cursor began to move on its own, selecting files. Someone was trying to access the drive remotely. "Damn it," he hissed, pulling the flash drive out immediately. The screen went black. His heart pounded. They knew. That afternoon, Ethan walked Liam home from school, forcing himself to smile, pretending everything was normal. But his mind was racing. He could feel eyes on him. Every car that slowed, every stranger who lingered too long made his nerves tighten. "Daddy, can we get ice cream?" Liam asked, his small hand gripping Ethan's. He smiled faintly. "Sure, buddy. Ice cream it is." They sat on a bench outside a small shop, the sun dipping behind the buildings. Liam laughed as the melting chocolate dripped down his fingers. Ethan tried to laugh too, but his gaze drifted to a black SUV parked across the street. Tinted windows, engine idling. His smile faded. "Come on, Liam," he said softly, standing up. "Let's go home." Let's go. That night, when Liam was asleep, Ethan called the only person he knew might help. A friend from high school who'd gone into law enforcement. "Ryan. It's Ethan." "Ethan, damn, it's been years. What's going on?" "I need to show you something. But not over the phone. Can we meet?" Ryan hesitated. "You sound serious." "I am. It's about Charles Monroe." There was a pause. Then Ryan's voice dropped. "Ethan, you don't want to be in that world, man. People who cross him don't end up okay. I don't have a choice. I think his wife's in danger. Maybe worse." Ryan exhaled. "All right, Tomorrow, 8 a.m. at the diner on 12th. Bring whatever you've got. Ethan thanked him, hung up, and looked out the window. Rain had begun to fall again, streaking the glass like ghostly fingers. He reached for the flash drive, now hidden inside an empty cereal box. Every instinct told him to run, to grab Liam and disappear. But he couldn't. Not when lives might be at stake. He was just a delivery driver. A single dad struggling to make ends meet. But now he was holding evidence that could take down one of the most powerful men in New York. And that power wouldn't let go easily. 2 at dawn. Ethan packed the flash drive into his jacket and headed for the diner. The streets were quiet, glistening from last night's rain. He spotted Ryan already sitting at a booth near the window, his police badge clipped to his belt. "Ethan," Ryan said, standing to shake his hand. "You look like hell." "Feels about right." Ethan slid into the seat, pulling the drive from his pocket. "It's all in here. Money laundering, bribes, you name it. Clara Monroe gave it to me." Ryan's eyes widened. "His wife?" Ethan nodded. "She said if anything happened to her, I needed to take this to the police." Ryan took the drive, examining it. "You realize what this means? If this is real, it could blow the top off half the city's elite." "That's the plan," Ethan said quietly. Ryan sighed, slipping the drive into his jacket. "All right. I'll run it through a secure system. Off the books, you just lay low. Don't talk to anyone." For the first time in days, Ethan felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, finally, there was a way out. He stood to leave, glancing toward the counter to pay. But when he turned back, Ryan's seat was empty. "Ryan," he called softly. The door chimed as a man in a dark suit entered, scanning the room with cold precision. Ethan froze. He recognized the face, Charles Monroe's head of security. Their eyes